Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video where I will be reacting to last week's Inside Star Citizen episode, Maps and Apps. Now, before I get into that, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched and liked the last video. It was my first proper video in a little while, so I was a bit unsure how it was going to go. It was the first time I've ever done that kind of video where I'm reacting to something else, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to be any good at it, but thankfully it appears to have gone well. It seems like some of you enjoyed it, so I thought this week we'd come back, we do something similar but in a slightly different way, and hopefully this one goes as well as the last one. The difference this time round is I had watched that hangers video 3 or 4 times before I did the recording. This week I haven't actually watched Maps and Apps at all, so I don't know what to expect. I don't have any thoughts built up ready to bring up as we go along. So this will be a pure reaction to what's being said. So it'll be interesting to see how well this one goes. Love to hear your thoughts, guys. Which style you preferred, whether you'd rather me watch them a few times first to formulate a few ideas, or if you like the pure reaction. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this one, and I hope I enjoy it as well. Don't forget, guys, if you do enjoy the video, please do leave a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd love for you to subscribe because I'm really going to try and get more videos coming out now as time goes forward. We're currently pushing for the 500 subscriber mark. So I'd be honestly absolutely delighted if you guys could help me get to that. But for now, let's focus on the video. And just a couple of thoughts beforehand. Obviously, any of us who have played this game for a while know that the star map has been probably one of the least liked aspects of the game. And I think it's fair to say that a fair number of the dev team kind of agree with us as well. And that's not being disrespectful to the people who put the current version in the game. They worked with what they had, and ultimately, what they came up with, the game has moved well beyond that, and it's going to move even further beyond that as well. And of course, then there's the MobiGlas as well, which I don't think as many people have a problem with. It certainly has some occasional functionality issues. Sometimes it's not always the most intuitive. I'm thinking of things like the vehicle manager isn't the clearest to use, especially for a new player. It takes you a while to get to grips with that. But both of those things have now been changed, and hopefully it's going to be a massive, not just a massive quality of life improvement, but just generally an overall gameplay improvement. So, without any more hesitation, let's see what the absolutely amazing Jared and the rest of the team have to say.
Never sat in this one before. As Alpha 323 continues its journey towards becoming Star Citizen's biggest life in the verse as we know it patch yet, we know lots of folks have patiently waited to see one thing above all others, the Mist Raptor. What? The MobiGlas and Star Map App. The MobiGlas and newly christened Map App.
I swear that character's Jared. I really think that character's Jared.
So the MobiGlas is getting a massive visual overhaul for 323.
The version everyone's been living with for years is, it kind of does the job, but you can see it's dated now.
So the entire MobiGlas is overhauled from what it was before. It's using a new technology.
So obviously it's come up on screen, so let's take a quick look at this new layer. And visually, you know, it's much better already. It fits with that design language that they've got going on. I love the curved edges, but this modularity of this initial screen is so good. So we've got our contracts, we've got notifications, got a little box there for our reputation, our vehicles box, the environment, our health, and of course the menu along the bottom. And it looks like, just to get to each section, we've got that arrow in the top right there that we can click, which then I assume opens that up to the actual relevant screen. That looks so much better already. And the fact that the ship one, or the vehicles one, right there in the middle, I kind of find that quite cool. I do remember back in CitizenCon there being the button for calling your ship to you from wherever you are. So it'll be interesting to see if they've added that in. I'm not sure how I feel about that function yet, but as with everything with this game, we'll give it a try and see whether it fits with what the game should be. But let's carry on.
It's using a new technology that we've built called cards, and we use cards for other UIs throughout the game. For the MobiGlas, it was a big task to convert because it has a lot of apps in it as well. So we need to convert all of those apps over to the new tech in order for the entire thing to be able to release.
So in 3.23, we've got a really big improvement to the user experience. So everything's designed to look nicer and feel nicer.
Ready to upgrade?
And sadly, we haven't really had all the time we needed to get all the apps there. So you are going to recognize the VMA and the Comms app just as they have always been. But with that package, you're getting all the other apps with a visual update and also functionality updates for some of them.
Okay, that's quite important to know. So obviously the vehicle manager was one of the ones that I mentioned. Obviously that's not going to be ready for 3.23 as he just said there, but it's on its way. So I'm sure if I look on Spectrum, there's going to be people complaining about that because, you know, it's what people do. But they've told us it's not ready yet. Hopefully, maybe for a 3.23A or 3.23.1, whatever they want to call the interim update that they no doubt will do. But yeah, another thing I just wanted to pick up on there, you can't really see it that clearly at the moment. If we just go back a little bit, just to show, we can't really see it on this particular screen, but we'll have a talk about the shadowing, the ghosting, as we get a better view of that. So we'll come back to that in a little bit.
So functionality updates for some of them.
You've got a completely updated home screen, so you can do.
Okay, that's kind of perfect. I should have literally just held on a couple of seconds. And again, you know what? We can't really see it that clearly on the MobiGlas. Although if we have a look at this bar down the right, now the whole idea is this is a hologram projected out to your MobiGlas. That hologram has a level of depth to it, which means you're getting this duplication of almost everything that shows up on the hologram. Although, oddly enough, if you look there, there's none of that with some of these things. Well, there is, it's a little bit, but it's not as clear, it's not as obvious. I know there are a lot of complaints about this particular aspect of the new features. They may address it in this video because I do know it has been addressed on Spectrum. Feedback is being listened to about that, so we'll just have to bear with them and wait for them to come back with what their ultimate solution is going to be. Obviously, I wear glasses. My eyesight isn't perfect. If I play too long, I do tend to get headaches and, you know, eye strain, so I have to be careful about how long I play the game for. So things like this, I can certainly see how, for a lot of people, they do have an effect on people's, you know, their physical health. So hopefully, you know, I completely understand why CIG did it. You know, this is a hologram. They wanted the hologram effect. At the same time, I would more expect that kind of feature if you kind of were projecting these images onto a pane of glass or plastic or something where you had two surfaces and the image was showing on both the rear surface and the front surface. It doesn't necessarily need to have that. You know, a hologram is 3D, but that doesn't, it's 3D isn't usually just two planes. It's usually an image that has extruded depth, and that isn't an extrusion, it's kind of a duplication behind it. So I honestly, I don't think it's necessary for them to have, and I don't think any of us would complain if they just completely removed that. That is my personal initial opinion on that right now. But yeah, let's carry on.
Do things like view your ship. You can see your health, notifications, kind of the information you really need to see now.
So we're also getting a fully new health app where you can see all the things that's currently affecting your health.
That's very
and all
nice.
the stats that you would normally see on your HUD.
Over time, we've added all these cool new things that can affect the player. So we're going to have things like radiation. We've got existing stuff like you can break bones. If you heal yourself, you can potentially overdose. You can have drug effects. All this cool stuff is happening, but it wasn't obvious to the player just walking around what was going on under the hood. So we added this new app where you can track all that stuff.
So the health app is going to be the place to go when, for some reason, you're feeling ill and you just need that extra little bit of information of what do I need to do to take care of myself to get out of this situation.
Again, we'll just have a hesitation. We'll just go back and have a look at this app. And yeah, I love this. I actually think this is really nice. Obviously, it shows you where your injuries are, shows you all the different impacts. It's going to make it a lot easier to identify what kind of med pens you need to use, if they are suitable, or whether or not you're going to need to go and get to a med bed, what level med bed. We know environmental factors are going to come into play a lot more. Radiation, as he mentioned there, fuel for your armor if you're in a low oxygen environment as well. The oxygen, so fuel for your EVA. Interesting, pressure is now playing more of a part as well, and tells you whether the atmosphere is safe or not. So, you know, for those people who always forget to put their helmet on, you know, you've got something here to remind you, hopefully. But I like this. I really like it actually identifying and just having a look at that on the side there, actually. So it tells you what your injuries are, and then it gives you some medical advice. So it says, visit the medical bay as soon as possible. I noticed just for muscle fatigue, it's not saying take X med pen. So whether or not they could advise that, maybe it would kind of make sense with a kind of, although it's not AI, there's a level of AI to it. Certainly a level of, you know, medical triage. And it could say, well, you've got this muscle fatigue, and for muscle fatigue in, you know, within the computer itself, it knows that muscle fatigue equals this medication. So I can kind of see an argument for it saying there, take X med pen. But I suppose you need to leave a little bit of control in the player's hands. But no, I really like that. That's a nice addition.
Take care of myself to get out of this situation. So the contract manager has been in the game for a long time, and it's just grown kind of obvious that it's not doing all the things you need it to.
All the functionality is essentially the same internally, but it needed a visual polish, and also the user experience needed bringing up to date. So some new features like you can toggle between illegal missions, you can see what the rewards are going to be ahead of time.
So no more randomly getting attacked by the police, hopefully. It's probably your fault anyway.
Some big improvements coming to the MobiGlas. That's coming in 3.23, but one thing we didn't talk about yet was...
Okay, before he goes on to that, because I've not really gone a lot into this, but I think it's worth just having a quick look at again. So gone is the tabs for personal and general, and now they're calling it verified and unverified. I've got a question for CIG here. Why can't we just say legal and illegal? You know, I know maybe necessarily the personal contracts aren't necessarily always illegal, but most of them do get you a crime set. I'm curious about the choice of language. If anyone in chat has any ideas about that, there might be some perfectly logical reason why they're not saying legal and illegal that I can't think of right now. So let me know down below, and that might clear it up for me. In general, you know, I like the fact that this side is a lot bigger. It's a lot clearer. The fact you've got your reward, who's awarded it. One thing I might have liked to see added to this would be a like we've got the rewards there. It would be nice if we could see what the reputation impact was there, and I'm sure they'll cover in reputation shortly, or somewhere down the line, because we know there's reputation changes coming. But I do think it would be nice if this would tell you, if you do this particular contract, you're going to boost your reputation with XX and X. You might harm your reputation with XX and X. So just a little bit of extra functionality. Again, Is that too much hand holding? I know CIG really don't want to hold our hands too much through this game. But at the same time, you know, if we're supposed to be making conscious decisions within this world, it would be nice to like just have a kind of guide saying, even if it doesn't give a value. So say, do this contract, you're going to get an extra 2% towards Crusader, but it's going to take 5% off your reputation with Xeno Threat, for example. Doesn't even need to go into that much granular detail. It just might say positive impacts with these, negative impacts with these. Simple thing like that would be really, really useful. But again, let's get back to where we were.
But one thing we didn't talk about yet was the star map.
Ew!
We've had the original Star Map and Star Citizen for a long time, so it was overdue for an update.
Don't get me wrong, like the old Skylink app, it did what it should, but I think it has grown a bit obsolete.
Very obsolete. I agree, Jared. I agree.
The original one just showed the stars and planets and so on, but we wanted to expand on that.
So opening up the star map for the first time in 320.
Sorry. Just you open up the star map and you immediately get your local map. Even down to showing you all the shops. This actually is a feature that, although I don't really talk about it that much, like I'm very focused on hangars, I'm very focused on distribution centers, this is going to be phenomenal. Anyone who's watching who's played Star Wars Fallen Order knows how a bad map can affect a really good game. And obviously, Starlink for this was a bad map. And we didn't have any, ground maps. There's a reason why 4 of my first videos that I made on this channel were tours of the landing of the 4 main cities, because there was no real way for a new player to navigate around. This, it's going to render my videos obsolete, but that's absolutely fine. I love this already. Just wow. Let's take a deeper look at this.
You're gonna realize that the star map is not just the star map anymore. It's the everything map.
It's now called Maps App rather than Star Map.
And why did we change it?
Because we now have the interior map, so this shows like your local area, as well as sort of zooming out and showing the star map.
So what is the interior map?
That just looks
It's a bird's eye
so good
view
up in
of the
top
current
left.
environment.
Showing all the
It's a
locked
really cool
doors, the
3D
doors
map,
you can
so-
access.
Instead of just having a top-down view, this is showing you the actual level.
And it's presented as a fully schematic 3D view in which you can find every relevant point of interest, such as a shop,
That is
transit station,
so good.
hospital,
Look at that.
and the like.
You can get them for ships, for landing zones in 323. In future, we'll expand on that and add it to more areas.
And if you're not familiar with the location you just arrived to, or you're a new player and you're not familiar with any of them, actually having the spatial awareness of where the things that are relevant to you are is going to provide a giant step up in terms of the experience of the game in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I was making the first of my landing zone videos, it was actually Orison, and I made the video. I finished making it, not knowing that Provident Platform existed. So I actually had to go back, explore that myself, then record it and change the initial video. And I'd been playing the game for I think something like 5 or 6 months by that point. Like I wasn't brand new to the game, but I had enough experience to know how to explore and how to look for things. I just had never come across Provident Platform. Having a map like this would have saved so much time. And I just, yeah. Just going back to a point that was made just now, obviously they did let us know a couple of months back, I think it was, I think when they were first talking about 323, was that in 323, only the 4 main cities, I believe, were definitely going to have this implemented. I think they were going to have some ships. They might cover that in a moment. But obviously there's so many locations just within Stanton that there's no possible way for them to have them every single location ready for 323. So this is going to be an iterative piece of work. Probably every update we get, there'll be something else plugged in to this app, which, you know, that's fair enough. It's a huge piece of work.
As it's fully 3D, you can move around, navigate between floors, zoom in and out, and so on, as you'd expect.
You will see the local area where you're walking around, something you've never been able to do before. Essentially, you'll be able to navigate between all the different rooms and different important areas of the game.
It also offers a way to overlay your own data onto it that is specific to you. So, for example, the location of your mission objective.
Good. Excellent. Oh,
Custom markers.
delivery missions will be changed forever by that. Custom markers, yes.
You can also use it to plot a route
fantastic.
to another location on the map. Drop a marker and navigate to it, so we'll see a line on the map that shows you where you can actually go and where the easiest way to get there.
So on that map,
So
you'll be able
good.
to just click any room you want to go to. You can go between the different zones of the area, and you can place a little marker and route all the way there.
So navigating is one of the primary use cases we want to make as robust as we can for 323. And so part of that involves providing a variety of fallback cases in order to help you best understand how to get somewhere. So for instance, if we ask the AI system and it can't return you a path via its nav links and nav meshes, we can ask the transit system. And if the transit system says there's a connection between the two zones, then that would help you route.
So at the time of recording, we're having issues loading all the different OCs that's in a big landing zone, for example.
Okay.
So we're looking into these solutions to make sure that you can track from one part to a fully different part of the area.
Okay, that's good. I like the transparency there. So we're going to get a version of the map app with 323, but there's definitely going to be some elements of functionality issues, certainly for, you know, the local map. So hopefully, you know, that isn't something that takes them too long to work through. I've got a feeling they've probably got a few ideas anyway. They'll be trying a few out. Obviously, right now as I'm recording, you know, Evercarty do have some tests up and running. So hopefully, you know, they're working on a few things and that'll get resolved. But so far, certainly the local map, for me, an absolute win. Like, it's proper quality of life, properly game changing, as are a lot of things in 323. Search bar.
So Star Map. Star Map is vastly improved. The main thing we wanted to change was make it a nice user experience. So
Thank
everything in there has been overhauled.
When you open your map, you'll first of all be confronted with your local area, so you'll see what room you're in and what's close to you. But you can also zoom out and you will see the universe open up in front of you as you zoom out.
From here, we can see the entire verse.
I like
We can see all the planets.
Space stations, Lagrange points, all of that good stuff. You can then click on any of those markers and you will be automatically panned and zoomed into them so you can.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Not only are you getting a description of the location, which, you know, one of my big bugbears at the moment with the game is there's not enough description of things you're looking at. That, you know, again, your MobiGlas should have access to, you know, the Galactopedia to tell you stuff. But these, the fact that it's telling you what facilities are at those locations, one's like, wow, that is so useful. That I've deliberately avoided like checking on Reddit, X, Spectrum for too much stuff about this particular video. I'm hoping a lot of people are talking about this, because if they're not, this is flying under the radar. But that is fantastic, brilliant. Like, of all the features I was expecting to come off this, this wasn't on there. So wonderful. Thank you very much for that, CIG. That's amazing.
See a little bit more detail about them. If you've zoomed in on a planet, for example, you can zoom in a little bit more
Even
and
the
you can start
planets
to see
look
the
better
surface
now. Look at them.
locations. So you can see towns, outposts.
You get all the information you need about them. We're adding this new system where you can see all the amenities that are available at that location.
Thank you.
So for outposts, landing zones, and stations, there will be a section here for amenities, which will show you things like whether you can buy weapons here, whether you can buy ships here, whether there's a food court, whether there's a hospital or a clinic. All of these sorts of things you'll be able to see on those box outs, so you'll know which is the most appropriate location to go to. We showed in CitizenCon, obviously, that these display much better now, so you'll see them rotate with the map, and if they've gone behind the planet, they fade out, and if they're in front of your view, they're brighter, so you can see them more easily. So at the moment, if you zoom in, it will eventually get too big and you'll go through, but I am currently working on it so that it will zoom in to the surface and you'll never actually sort of clip through the planet.
Good.
Generally, we've tried to make it feel like a much more pleasant user experience, so there's things like items don't disappear off the back of the map anymore, everything's easy to read.
So as always, the star map is what you're going to want to use to route your way through the verse.
You can still set routes as you could in the previous version, but there is a little bit more feedback if there is a problem and you can't set a route, whether you don't have enough fuel or whether it's obstructed.
It's going to be so easy. It's going to be so intuitive for you you click the thing, and there you get the button to say set route. It doesn't always just have the ability to set a route, because you can't always set a route. We will let you know when you can set a route.
The number of times I've gone to set a route to a place and I've clicked the button and nothing's happened, and I've been like, why are you not setting a route? And sometimes it is a bug within the game. Like, I know at the moment, if I'm taking off from, say, Area 18 and I'm trying to set a route to, I don't know, Hurston, I'll click, or if I click specifically on Lawville, for some reason it doesn't want to set the route and I have to actually jump to an orbital marker because it kind of causes a reset in the background somewhere. Hopefully bugs like that are going to be gone with this. But sometimes it's simply the fact that I've forgotten to refuel. Something as simple as that, or it's just too far away for the ship that I'm in, and it sometimes takes me a couple of minutes of just like, what am I doing wrong? What's happening? And then suddenly I'll look in the top left and I'll say, I don't have enough quantum, do I? And then you find out. So yeah, good. Another really good quality of life improvement.
There are a few things that are new for this new star map that have not been seen in the old star map. The primary one there would be search. So we now have a list of all locations. So there'll be a little drop down in your top left corner. If you open that up, you can see the full list of locations ordered by what is closest to you. And then you can also type any location and it will appear. So you could type, for example, L1, and all of the Lagrange point ones would appear. So this allows you a lot more flexibility to finding what you're looking for when it's not as sort of, immediately right there when you're at the current view. So you can go all the way across the solar system to look at something completely different.
Notice the compass along
Star
the top
Citizen
there as well.
is a massive systemic game. We've got all this cool stuff going on. We've got multiple players doing things at different times. So we wanted to improve the overall interface from the player to that game world. So a big part of that is the new MobiGlas.
Finally, we've gone to this effort to refactor and do the whole MobiGlas hub from scratch. New maps, new applications, everything is using new tech, and we have a much more flexible and robust system for the MobiGlas under the hood.
When you're playing Star Citizen, it should be a smooth experience. You shouldn't be stuck trying to find whatever it is you need to find at the moment. We're helping you do that with the new apps, making it easier for you to find your missions or to even just find a place in the verse.
Now that we have that framework in place, then it's kind of the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do with it and how many apps we can develop for it. And it's all using new tech, it's clean, it's the way we want it.
The other big new feature is obviously the star map with the brand new interior map as well.
Star Citizen.
So just going back to what he says there about plugging future apps in, like there's so much potential for other apps. I think one off the top of my head would be something to help people who do cargo running. So maybe what we've got with the current journal where you get commodity prices and stuff, I think there's a real argument to have a proper commodities app built into the MobiGlas. I think the Vehicle Manager app could be improved and expanded to give some more details about the weapons and gadgets that you have on them. Again, as I said earlier, one of my real bugbears is the lack of information that you're given within the game. Even say you're going to go and buy a new quantum drive. Let's be honest, if you don't use Urkel, you don't know which one's better than which. Hopefully, with the Vehicle Manager, they can add that kind of data in. If you're someone who does mining, like knowing what each of the little mining gadgets and which of the mining components to use to break certain rocks, like again, a lot of that information you get outside the game so that you know which things to get. A lot of that needs to be brought within the game itself. So, and there's no disrespect to those people who've created those websites because they are phenomenally useful and those people have done amazing work to help us in the game. But I always have the view that we shouldn't have to be looking outside the game to know how to play the game. So bringing a lot of those kind of things in the MobiGlas really, really does make sense. So as they hopefully come up with new cards, obviously the risk is they come up with too many. So they've got to keep it relatively limited. But at the same time, there's definitely room for expansion there. Just I didn't notice there. Obviously, we do have knickknacks on the current one, which for me is one of my least favorite things on the current MobiGlas. I'm just looking along the bottom. We've got an assets tab, which I assume is replacing knickknacks. And hopefully that's going to make it a lot easier for us to see what we've got where, especially when it ties in with the new kiosks. So we've got wallet app. One of the things I'd like with the wallet app, and again, I assume we're not getting a finalized version or maybe even a tier 0 version of that in the current MobiGlas. I really want to see a history of how I've come about the money that I've got. So X contract gave me this, X player gave me this money. I got 500 UEC for killing this player under call to arms and things like that, just to expand that wallet app. Because obviously we've got MoTrader at the moment, which is very, very basic. It does what it needs to do, but I do think there's scope there to better track your financial progress through the game. So yeah, definitely room for some more cards. Obviously, we don't want too many because we currently have a bar that is pretty much almost the whole width of the MobiGlas. You could probably extend it a little bit either side. So you could maybe put 2 or 3 more cards in there. And we don't want too many cards. But it'll be interesting to see what ideas they've got about what they want to add.
Apps we can develop for it, and it's all using new tech. It's clean. It's the way we want it.
The other big new feature is obviously the Star Map with a brand new interior map as well.
Star Citizen is a game about exploring. It is a game about spacefaring. And even so, even when you're not going around in space, it's still about exploring.
Without the star map, it's really difficult to do that, right? This makes it so much easier to navigate around, to finding what you want and where it is and how to get there.
Overall, it helps the player interact with the world, get to where they want to, do what they want to do more easily and quickly.
Hopefully.
Definitely.
Oh,
Definitely.
I agree. So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that MobiGlas is finally converted over to building blocks in the new card system, meaning that Flash, as we know it, has pretty much gone to live on a farm upstate. That the conversion sets the stage for the creation of multiple new apps going forward, and that the new internal map and star map have combined to become simply the Map App. Now, of course, remember that all things you see on ISC are a work in progress, and as any player of Evocati or developer alike may tell you, will continue to iterate between when you see it here and its upcoming release in Alpha 3.23. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Thank you for sharing. just going back to one of the final points that one of the guys said there is that Star Citizen is an exploration game, and I think for many of us at the moment,
not in this episode,
there's
they told me
not
to show
so
you
much
this.
of the exploring. And that's because we're in one system. And although there's a lot to see in that system, it's also quite a barren system. So there are few of us who genuinely explore in the game. We mostly focus on contracts, on the events that come up, or just general gameplay loops that we like to do. Like I just like to do salvaging. There are people out there who just like to do cargo, which doesn't have any contracts at all at the moment. Some people love just doing delivery missions. Some people just want to go and do bunkers all day. There's very little of, you know what, I just want to go to X moon or X planet and just fly around it and see what there is. And certainly that isn't going to be completely solved by the current iteration of the MobiGlas and Map app, but it's starting to build that. Now, obviously, as we said earlier, not everywhere is going to have a local map, so there's no point going to, say, Wala and using the local map to explore locations around. It's going to take a while for them to get to that, but hopefully we get, you know, these come in for the distribution centers sometime soon. It'd be really great if it could be ready for Pyro. I'm sure they're going to want to aim to have it ready for Pyro as well. But as you know, the universe expands, as we start getting more and more systems come into it, both parts of that map are just going to be huge, absolutely huge. And you know, I'm really excited for that. Let's just finish the video and then I'll go into my final thoughts, because obviously we've got to have Jared's skit. Pico the Navigator. What? Okay. What do you guys think that is? Any ideas? You know, as always, let us know down below. So yeah, let's go into my final thoughts about maps and apps. You know, absolutely huge changes on one of the most fundamental tools that we have in the game, which is our MobiGlas. You know, it serves a function, but that function has become very, very limited. As we said before, the star map itself, it just isn't nice to use. It's not even that it's not necessarily easy to use, because I think it is easy to use once you know that you need to do whatever with the left button, whatever with the right button, move your mouse to turn it around and so on, double click on certain things and scroll wheel in and out. Like they're very basic functions. So it's not that it's not easy to use, it's just that it doesn't function very well. This new one certainly looks better. I know in one of the early Evocati tests, there were certain comments that maybe at that point it wasn't that much of an improvement, but in subsequent tests, you know, the feedback is that actually this is really good. This is massive. This is, I wouldn't say necessarily what people really wanted, but it's getting closer to what people want. So it'll be really, really interesting to see once the rest of us are able to get our hands on it. And you know, the MobiGlas itself, it just looks cleaner. It oddly, even though it's the same colors, I think because of the layout, because of the cards, it actually looks like it's a bit easier to read and a bit easier to go to, like, you're not as overwhelmed with information, which is really strange because it's the same information that's on there. In fact, in many cases, there's more information, but it's just divided up into chunks that just makes it easier visually for your eyes to navigate. Look at that one does that. Look at that one that does that. So definitely, definitely a massive improvement. And, you know, I've said some of the ideas of where I would really like to see this go. I don't really think I've got much to add to that. I just want to, you know, see what ideas CIG have. You know, if they ask for feedback, if they ask for suggestions, 100% I'll be in there. I'll be giving suggestions. Another one that literally just popped in my mind is a card where you could maybe track your refinery jobs from remote rather than having to go back to the station where you've got the refinery going, and check to see where it is. So to have a card like that where you're tracking things like that, you know, going back to the vehicle manager, be really nice if you could just drop down a list to see where each of your ships is at, if they're in different locations. I do notice that we didn't see the button to recall a ship on there, as I mentioned right at the start of the video. So maybe they've taken it away completely. Maybe they can't get it to do what they want it to do. It felt very No Man's Sky to me, and as much as I like No Man's Sky, there is an element of me that doesn't want me to be stranded on a planet. Let's say I've been doing Jumptown. My ship's been blown up. I'm kind of stranded. It feels a little bit cheap for me to just open my MobiGlas and say, right, bring this ship here, and it flies in on its own. That needs AI, and we know that there's an in-universe reason why we don't want too much AI. And it just feels lazy. It feels cheap, and I kind of don't want that in there. But if they do decide to add it, we'll see how it works. But it certainly doesn't look like that's going to be anywhere near 323, and I've got a feeling it's not going to be for a couple of updates at least, if ever. But no, I'm really impressed with that. I can't wait for Wave 1 access to the PTU, so it's another thing I can take a really good look at. So what do you guys think? Do you like these changes? I'd be surprised if anyone says no. If anyone out there prefers the old versions, please let us know, and please tell us why, because you know, I may have to, you know, give someone a call and send them round to give you a bit of help. But I'd be surprised if anyone actually prefers the old versions. So yeah, that's going to be it, guys, for this video. Again, as I said before, drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe. I will try and put out more of these. I won't necessarily do every Inside Star Citizen, but if there are episodes that have got stuff that I actually feel like I've got something I want to say about them, I'll probably do a video that comes out a few days after the episode as well. And also, let me know if you've watched the last video and if you've watched this one. Let me know which you preferred. Did you prefer me having more knowledge beforehand, or do you prefer me literally reacting to it as though I was watching it live and as it is the first time that I'm seeing it? And that will help inform me how I'm going to do these ones going forward. There will be another video coming soon. I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, but we are coming up to my 2-year anniversary as a citizen. So, as a backer, I should say. So, I am looking at doing a couple of videos based around my experience of the game so far in that time, especially as we're coming up to some major changes. It feels really salient to talk about what I've experienced today in comparison to what the experience is going to be in future. So keep an eye out for when those videos go up. I've got a big video planned for just before Invictus this year. So look out for that one as well. That's going to be a bit of a project to love, that one. But yeah, thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.